Welcome to Divorce and Other Things You Can Handle, a branded podcast by Worthy. I'm Jennifer Butler, and I'm your host. When you sell a piece of jewelry, you can't control how much it's worth, but you can make sure that you're selling smart with a team of experts and advocates behind you at Worthy. Your engagement ring can be a financial asset that allows you to embrace a new and fulfilling life after divorce. Let us help you get the best deal possible for the jewelry you've outgrown. Go to worthy.com/podcast to learn more. Going through a divorce is an overwhelming experience. It's a time when emotions run high, and as a result, it can be very easy to lose sight of what truly matters. At the end of the day, though, nothing is more important than your children and advocating for your family in a way that supports and protects them. When you're able to better communicate in an already strained situation, your ability to create a positive environment for your children increases tremendously. We here at Worthy are committed to supporting you and helping you find the tools that allow you to navigate this new phase of your life in the best way possible. Our guest today, Michael Daniels, is the founder and CEO of FAYR, F-A-Y-R, which stands for Family Advocacy is Your Responsibility, a groundbreaking app that seamlessly streamlines key aspects of family management for co-parents raising children together. This online solution makes co-parenting simple and more effective and allows you as a parent to advocate for your family in an empowered way. Michael's here to talk with us about the importance of effective communication in advocating for your family during a divorce. And I know that I am so happy to have you here. We've had a lot of listeners and people in the Worthy community who have reached out requesting episodes on co-parenting. So I know everyone is going to be eager to hear what you have to say. Thank you for being here.
Jennifer, thank you very much for having me. Very excited.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit about yourself, about your journey, and what brought you to where we sit here today.
Oh, well, yeah. Well, I wouldn't say there's anything really unique about my situation other than I probably just did something different than most people would do about it. I'm a divorced father of two. I went through the divorce process, which started in 2008, ended in 2010. Like many people know, it's a very arduous, drawn-out process, and there's really no way to prepare for it in life. Mm-hmm. But it's something that everybody can relate with, because I don't care who you are. You've either been through it yourself, or you grew up in a divorced home, or somebody very close to you has.
Right.
And it's rather remarkable that more than 54% of the children growing up today in the U.S. Are growing up in divorced homes. So it's something really important for us to understand all the tools that are out there to simplify things and save us a lot of time, money, and anxiety. So I went through this difficult time, like many people do, and I just found the task of reconciling daily logs for, you'll use Google Docs, Google Spreadsheets, you'll use Google Calendar for your co-parenting schedules. You'll just use all of these different formats and for messaging or tracking expenses and this sort of thing. And I just wanted to combine it, bring it all into one place that was intuitive, easy to use, instantaneous, and court admissible. Because what I ended up finding was that, I would show up with all of these detailed logs in either a mediation or in court, and the other party said, well, he made that up.
Right.
And, the truth is I could have made it up. And I just wanted to just keep the record clear, because I think that nothing's going to represent us better than the truth. And in using FAYR, it represents the absolute truth. But you had asked a little more about my background. I come from a home building background. I built custom homes for 5 years on my own. 10 years on my own. I worked for Lennar Corp for a little over 5 years. It's the biggest residential developer in America. And so I view this process, this journey into this co-parenting space as still a continuation of building homes,
right?
Just doing it in an emotional way, and I find it very, very rewarding. I just felt like during this time, even post judgment, you think it's all over, but it's not over. You can end up back in court for a motion for modification, enforcement, or contempt, at any time. And this just leaves you living in an anxious state of mind, and your children are not growing up with a father or a mother who is able to be the best version of themselves, and they're missing out on that.
Yeah.
And so that's really what propelled me to create FAYR.
Yeah, I mean, you're speaking to, an audience of people who absolutely can resonate with what you're saying. And what I love is what you started out, you just did something about it, right? Like you just took all the things that we've all struggled with and found a solution. So bravo to you. I think that's awesome.
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you.
And I appreciate it on behalf of all of us who struggle through, like you said, all these Google Docs. And I remember trying to export text messages. And I mean, it must have taken days of research and tricks and just trying to figure out how to get them off the phone. So I know the value of what you've created and what it provides for us.
Yeah, that's funny you bring that up. My divorce attorney is now a judge, and I see her around a lot in the circuit. And she always tells people, I remember him finding this app that was like $19, whatever, and I had to use that app in order to export my messages. And then they all came out in just a big string line of dates that they were sent and received and this sort of thing. But I had to go through there with a highlighter to make it quickly legible because a judge was going to look at it. And so I took two different colors and I highlighted one in her color and one in my color. And it was a lot of work.
Yes.
And moving it all over was difficult. But even then, text messages can be manipulated. I could have gone through there and deleted if I said things that I didn't want to be read out. People say things emotionally. People are emotional, reactive, and impulsive in these messages, just when they need to be very careful with what they say, write, and do. And so you could go in there and take those things out, delete them, and then export.
Right.
And so the nice thing about FAYR is nothing can be manipulated. I mean, everything in there, when you export a report, there's no extra charge for that. You're not paying the extra $20 or whatever for the app. And everything is laid out, when it was sent, when it was received, when it was seen. And it's just, you have the ease of text messaging with all the admissibility of emails. So,
I gave a very kind of brief description of FAYR. You're kind of, giving some descriptions here and there, but let's tell our audience exactly what FAYR is.
I really honed in initially on 4 key features. And there were other programs there at the time. They were web-based. They were not app-based, which, not many of us go through life and go home and jump on a computer and write down everything that was said that day or transcribe text message. Nobody does that.
Right.
So I wanted to make something that was app-based. You get instant push notifications. So all of these features, just that I'm about to explain, do just that. But I wanted to focus in on 4 key features. And one is, of course, a co-parenting calendar that we engage with every day. I wanted a calendar that had it laid out. Mom's days are in one color. Dad's days are highlighted another color. And so at a glance, you can see the schedule. You know what days are whose. And if mom needs to be out of town for anything, or she need only click on the day, it'll pop up and it'll give her a few options. One will be request to forfeit the day. If she clicks that, she can put some notes in there. She can say which child, she can, whatever she needs to do. And once she says request to forfeit, dad would instantly get a notification to his phone saying, do you accept or deny this forfeit? If he accepts it, the day changes to his color and it does not change back to hers unless he were to release it again. But in doing all of this, and you can set, there's so many things you can do in here. You can set special events, your daily schedules, modify them or whatever you need to do. You can even set locations. So it'll be linked to your to the GPS, so you can send it to your co-parent, and you don't have to tell them where to go or what time to be there. They can click on it and it'll go to their Google Maps or go to their iMaps, and boom, their GPS is taking them right there. So
wow.
it just allows you to communicate constructively on all of these core issues without having to communicate verbally.
Right.
So the co-parenting calendar is feature number 1. The feature number 2 is, of course, expenses in our lives, like especially when you're preparing for court motions. In preparation for your final settlement. I mean, that took 2 years. And during those 2 years, I had to document and save every single paper receipt. And I'd have to keep track of this stuff. And I just had massive amounts. I had to call insurance companies and call the different banks to get statements. There's all sort of mandatory disclosures you have to produce. Well, all of this is a lot of paperwork. And holding on to that stuff is difficult. You go to doctor's offices and they print you out a full page of a receipt for services. And all of this just becomes a lot of work. And then the paralegal is then going to charge you, $80 to $90 to $120 an hour. You'll get billed to put all of this in a court admissible format to be an exhibit. And so that gets really costly. So in doing this with FAYR, you just pull out the app and you can, you just put in what you spent, how much, what it was. You can take a picture of the receipt. You can take another couple pictures of whatever you want saved to prove this expense. And as long as it meets the category of what I call an involuntary expense, these are expenses that the courts would require that you share. If it's extracurricular, if it's something related to school or medical, uncovered medical, dental. I mean, there's a whole bunch of categories, and you click on one of those. So it just documents it for you. And even at the end of the year, you can say, give me a report of everything that was related to medical if you're going to write this stuff off of your taxes.
Right.
So I really just thought about everything to make this just as useful as an app as possible. So that's the expense feature. It has a lot of features in there, but I don't want to get too detailed. I'll let listeners go check it out. But I also have a pie graph in there that at a glance, you can see the percentage in the pie chart of who spent what. So every time you add something, the pie would then shift, and you can look at it since inception, year to date, any specific month. Just really wanted to make it handy to try to mitigate some of the disagreements that people have. People are really good about keeping a mental inventory of their own contributions. But they're seldomly really recall, oh, yeah, that's right. You did knock out the expense for tutoring for 3 months straight, and that was $60 a day. And, it all adds up. And when you can see it in a pie chart, it just mitigates a lot of things from escalating. Because let's face it, most disagreements, these aren't bad parents. They all love their children. At one time, they loved each other.
Right.
It's just that a lot of misunderstandings and simple disagreements end up escalating.
Yeah, absolutely.
Unnecessarily. So then the third feature, we'll just jump into that, of course, is the admissible messaging, because my attorney had always told me, well, communicate only in email. So I would email, and then I'd get a response via text message. And that kind of frustrated things, because then I'd have to try to pair emails with these printed out text messages and try to make sense of all of this. So with FAYR, you can just, it's super simple. Everything's just like your iOS messaging or Android messaging. All push notifications work seamlessly, and they're able to have the ease of text messaging with all the admissibility of emails. Final feature was the reason. It was the reason I built the app. It's the geo check-in feature, because I was definitely the first one to come out with this. Some of our competitors have since adopted it, but I had a time sharing schedule that I was supposed to drop my children off down 43 miles away from me in Miami one day. So I traveled 43 miles down there with my two children in tow. And dropping them off, I'm sitting outside the house, and no one's answering the door. Nobody's there. Nobody's responding to phone calls or text messages. And after about 30 minutes, I said, oh, man, the heck with this. I'm going home. So I headed back home, 43 miles back home. And upon getting home, I get a call from my attorney, who had just been contacted by her attorney, saying that, you're in violation of this court order. And I'm very worried about this, because, I'm going to show up to court, and they're going to say, well, you didn't drop off the children, and now I would look like I'm in contempt of an order.
Right.
So, and this could totally affect my entire outcome. I mean, we hadn't had settlement yet, so this could totally affect the entire outcome of my future with the children. So, fortunately, I'd taken the turnpike and was able to pull my records for having exited a toll road, and by doing so, I was able to prove that I was just within a mile of the house at a certain period of time. So, I was, obviously. I was kind of acquitted, so to speak, of this accusation. But all of that arguing that day still cost me $800 in legal fees. I mean, out of the blue, $800 in legal fees right then and there. Well, with the app, with our geo check-in feature, it's not a tracker. Some people confuse it sometimes with, I don't want to be tracked. Well, you're not being tracked. All it is I could have shown up. I could have pulled out the app. I could have just checked in. And unlike Facebook's check-in feature, which you could check yourself in at the Eiffel Tower.
From anywhere, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. With this, it can't be manipulated. Like, this is where you are, and you check in. It drops a pin right there. It'll send a notification instantly to your co-parent, and they'll say, "Oh, there he is. He's on time. He checked in." Okay, this is an extremely useful feature when I want to prove if I'm being accused of not showing up on time to school functions or not being wherever. You can just every day you can go and just drop a pin. You can just prove your timely arrivals for pickups, drop-offs, and it just really keeps things from escalating. Because had I had this that day, that would have been it. It would have been done and over with. I wouldn't have spent $1 on those legal fees. And look, divorce is the number one thing that sends families into poverty, and poverty is the well, divorce and poverty are the number one and number two things that children suffer from psychologically. So,
Right.
do anything you can do to keep things from escalating and keep your financial resources in your pocket, or just will do a lot of good for you and your kids.
I mean, first of all, amazing. Like, you really did touch on all four, areas, aspects of the issues of co-parenting, and kind of just bring it all together in a way that's manageable and easy to use and trackable and all of that. So, bravo.
Well, thanks. Yeah. And I mean, I added a couple little, there's several other features, and we're always building more just to make it more useful. We have a file vault. So things, if you want to keep your settlement agreement or your time sharing schedule, that's in a PDF right there, accessible to both of you. Anything you store in the file vault, you both co-parents have access to it. So a birth certificate, for example, like when you're at a doctor's office, oftentimes they'll ask me, how much did the child weigh at birth, or what time were they born? Well, you've got all of that information could be in the file vault. Everything's encrypted. It's super safe. Nothing to worry about there. And then you can also reference your schedule. Anything you need to keep in the file vault, you both can see it. And then you have your private journal. You can do things that is only seen by you. So if you want to keep notes about something specifically that's went on, you can log it there, and it'll be a part of your report. But it won't be part of your co-parents' report if they were to be printing everything off.
Right. So there's definitely, ways that this helps families. I mean, like you said, just poverty aspect. I mean, just really mitigating you having to spend hundreds, really thousands of dollars trying to prove certain things or whatever with attorneys. But what are some of the other ways that the app really helps families?
For me, I can speak for myself. I know that I don't worry so much anymore.
Yeah.
I used to just get so bothered by knowing that there's this impending argument that's just floating out there, and I've got to deal with it. It's in my future. You just find your mind wandering. Some people may be stronger than I am emotionally and mentally, but I mean, it really gets you really ruffled. Like, my dad used to tell me, and parenting's really important to me, but my late father, I never forgot it. He used to say to me, no success in life will ever compensate for the failure as a parent. And I find that to be really impactful for me during this time, because I felt like, for a long time, I felt like I was failing my children, because I was shorter tempered, let's say, with them. I wasn't as patient as I could have been during these younger stages. And I felt like I really couldn't enjoy it because it was tainted by all of this stuff. And I don't come from a legal background. So when people make these crazy threats, I didn't know if they had merit. I didn't know if these things had legs that were going to actually come and get me, I freaked out a lot. And a lot of people, in order to soothe themselves, what do? They call an attorney, and the attorney's billing them, they're billing them every 6 minutes, it gets expensive. And so been using FAYR though. I mean, I'm just like, okay, well, you know what? I have the record here, and I'll be fine. I'm doing what I have to do, and there's a clear record here. And, honestly, there are a lot of great parents out there, but they lose due to insufficient documentation. They're good parents, just bad documenters.
Right.
And we're helping a lot of families be able to mitigate some of those problems, so they can just kind of live in peace. I mean, I'm not saying it's going to solve all your problems. You clearly got divorced for all sorts of reasons, but at least from a legal standpoint, and just as a communication tool, I mean, the first thing you can do to better any situation, I don't care what it is. Professionally, we use collaborative tools, apps all the time. We use them socially. It betters communication. That the quickest thing you can do to improve anything is to make communication better.
Right.
And in this very critical area of life, I mean, this is the only area of life that you can be in a civil suit with another human being and have to go on communicating with that person for years to come. So this is, this just helps keep things peaceful.
Yeah. And, I'm thinking too, as you're speaking about high conflict divorce situations where, because even in the best of situations, even in the most amicable divorce, there's still stress. There's still documentation and trying to keep records and making sure you're doing everything properly. But then you throw in this high conflict piece where there's deceit and manipulation and actual attempts at harming each other. I'm just thinking about how this would really be such a helpful tool for anyone experiencing a situation like that.
1,000,000%. I mean, I don't
Yeah.
want to get into too many of my own personal experiences, but absolutely, yes, you will do so much good for yourself and consequently your children by staying well documented. I cannot stress to people enough the importance of just documenting. And FAYR, I've made it as easy as possible for people. You don't have to save all that paperwork. You can just capture it in the phone and it's saved there forever.
Yeah.
And you don't have to worry about reconstructing that audit trail of information 2 years down the road, because you never know. Your attorney will say, "Hey, I need your last 2 years of bank statements, any expenses for medical, all of these things." And reconstructing that, you will never be able to do it 100%. So yeah, it's a great tool, and I'm really, really proud of it. And I'm really open to people's suggestion, because I'm one person from one set of life experiences, and everyone else has got their own spin on things. And I'm all open to listen to people's suggestions and keep coding out and making things better.
That's awesome. So I'm going to take a really quick break here. And then when we come back, let's jump into this idea of family advocacy, because I know that is a huge part of why you created FAYR. Obviously, that's kind of what it stands for. So let's really talk about what that means and how, people listening can apply that to their life, why it's so important.
Sure. Love to.
Awesome. So we're going to take a quick break and we will be right back with more from Michael Daniels. When I decided to sell my jewelry after my divorce, the most important thing to me was finding a company that I could trust and one that would also advocate for me. I found this and so much more at Worthy. Their expert staff immediately put me at ease and helped me to get the best price possible for my jewelry. Your engagement ring can be a symbol of your freedom, your journey, and the choices you have made to live your life on your terms and create the future you desire. Let us help you get the best deal possible for the jewelry you've outgrown. Go to worthy.com/podcast to learn more. We're back with Michael Daniels, and we are talking about family advocacy. And we've been discussing the app that Michael created called FAYR. And I'm going to let you take it away, because FAYR is an acronym and leads us right into speaking about family advocacy.
Yeah, well, thank you. Yeah, at FAYR, I decided, I think there are only two versions of ourselves that we should ever be really in any relationship. We're either going to be generous or we should be fair. And at a minimum, we should be fair. And so, but I also, I thought about how this is an advocate for your family. You're no longer together. You've made the conscious uncoupling, as Gwyneth coins the term. You're going your separate ways, and you need an advocate, because it's hard enough to communicate really well. Mm-hmm. Heart to heart with somebody, even when you're together. I mean, but it becomes much more difficult now when you're pursuing two separate lives. But you need an advocate for this family, the one that you had created here.
Right.
And so for me, I tell people all the time, don't try to be right. Don't seek, hey, I got to win. I got to win this fight. I got to be right. Just be effective. And for me, it's like they say, they say that it's not the snake's bite that kills you. It's chasing that snake dry. It sends the poison to your heart.
Right.
It's about being able to just say, you know what? I just got bitten by something that really hurt, but I'm not going to chase it. I'm going to be effective. I'm going to be responsible. So, FAYR stands for family advocacy. And so Y is your responsibility. And I focus on the word responsible because it's about being response-able, the ability to respond, the ability to choose your response to anything that happens to you. And I think when people are able to understand that, hey, this is not good for me, and I need to focus on making sure this day that transpires is a good day for my kids. Because any day that goes by that my kids are happy, that's a good day for me.
Yeah. And
if you can just kind of make that your salt line for happiness and success in life, you're going to be just the best thing that could have ever happened to your children. And when I talk about advocacy, I guess I wanted to create a tool that was going to be an advocate for the truth, because nothing's going to represent those children better than the truth. It helps judges to make the most informed decisions on behalf of the future happiness of these kids. So I guess that's where I went with it.
Yeah. And, and I love that. And I was thinking too earlier how you found yourself being less patient. You found yourself, being less present than you might have liked to have been. And I'm just thinking about how important and how effective that quote unquote brain dump is, right? Like when you're not carrying around all this stuff in your head and you're able to immediately input it somewhere, you really can be more patient, more present, and then be more responsible and an advocate for your family, for your children.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's interesting you just said that. It's, being more present, not carrying that stuff around in your head. That's the most damaging thing we can do to ourselves. It manifests itself in us professionally. It manifests itself, all that negative energy, those negative things going on in your head. Mm-hmm. It affects you physically. It'll manifest itself in your career, in literally every aspect of your life. And so if you can just dump it into the app, whatever's going on there, and you just know that, hey, it's in there. It's all safe. And if I ever need to recall it, I mean, it's the facts are there. I used to just getting anxious, like, I can't forget this. I have to get home tonight and I need to put this in my log.
Yeah.
Well, that's just a miserable way to live your life, is every night I end the night with thinking about reconstructing all of this in my head and then writing it all down in these logs. And I did this for 2 years. And it was just like, I am spending an enormous amount of time reliving those emotional feelings. I mean, memories that you are recalling become, you relive the emotions that you felt, and it just becomes a poisonous thing for you.
Yeah. You're almost re-traumatizing yourself.
Yeah.
I think over and over. Exactly.
Yeah. And I tell you, it's so unhealthy. It hurts you physically. You feel drained. And it'll affect you in a future relationship and with your children. So, your children are feeding off of you. They look to you to interpret the world for them. And if they see a version of you that's just depressed, that's anxious, I mean, you want to be that advocate for your family. You want to overcome these things. And I think utilizing the technology that's available today, people didn't have this for years and years. Things were left very ambiguous, and it was just left to luck. And a lot of times there were prejudices on part of, judges. But mm-hmm. with this, you're really represented by the best. But it's the best. So
yeah,
I encourage people to do it.
No, I'm excited, and I went through my divorce way back when you did with yours. So I do wish I had a tool like this. It absolutely would have. It just would have made my experience, like you said, a lot less stressful. I would have been a lot less anxious. A huge difference. So, what advice do you have for parents, co-parents, having gone through your entire journey, having gone through it, having done something about it? You must hear stories now from people, and just your perspective. What advice do you have?
Yeah, I suppose I would say I would get back to, look, think about your children here. You think about what you are doing, the emotional impact you're having on your children. Be very conscious of, I'd like to render people very conscious of the fact that damaging your children emotionally, making them feel, your children are looking to their parents, they see a bit of themselves in both of you. Mm-hmm. And when they see you berating each other, that starts to take a huge toll on the way they perceive themselves. And that will affect their whole lives. You are creating them block by block each day. And I want people to be mindful of that. I hear people sometimes tell me, when people ask you what do you need to impart on them, just tell them document, download the app, that sort of thing. But I mean, really, this is about bettering our community, bettering our lives, and bettering the future of our children.
Yes, I second that. That's awesome. I really, really appreciate that, and the fact that you've created this in order to help parents do just that.
No, thank you.
Yeah. So, is there anything else that you'd like to share with our audience today before we have to say goodbye?
No, I'm looking forward to some future opportunities that I'm going to have to speak on this platform. That's really exciting. And I will be sharing that on our social media outlets. We're at FAYR on all of our Twitter, and so it's BEFAYR, mm-hmm. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and let's see, what are the other big handles there? Well, I guess that's probably them.
Yeah, that's all
but
of
of course, go check us out at FAYR.com, and you can create an account and start using FAYR if you go to BeFAYR.com. And we'll be putting all of that stuff out there in the future for people to see what we're doing.
And like you said before, Michael welcomes feedback. Your mission and intention is just to make this the best tool possible.
That's absolutely right. And getting to this, I'm a builder and architect. Cheap is expensive. I've always believed that. And getting into this, I literally hire the best people in the industry to code it out. The same people who build Citibank's app, but built FAYR. I really want to make something that's good.
Yeah.
There are a lot of other programs out there that it's like they get your money and they just realize that's their lifetime value. They're done. But I really, really want to make something that people want to use. So please, if you have any suggestions on how I can make it better, what's working well for you, what could be better, I'm so happy to take anyone's suggestions.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Thank you for, creating a solution, because I think a lot of us have ideas and it takes courage to just kind of go out there and say, I'm going to actually do something about this. So thank you for that.
Oh, well, thank you. Thanks for the time.
Yeah, absolutely. Take care and
all right.
Talk to you soon. Have a good day, Worthy Community.
All right, take care.
Make sure you subscribe so you can catch every new episode of Divorce and Other Things You Can Handle in your weekly feed. If you like what you hear, rate and review us to help other women like you find us. This podcast is for you, so email us at podcast@worthy.com with any questions or ideas that you may have. We look forward to hearing from you.